Nowadays, we find the culture of people passing out from IIT and then starting as an entrepreneur. Previously, it was not there. At least they have some backup. Maybe they are a second generation, so they have some backup. Father has some capital in place. So that is good. Entrepreneurship is a mindset which is very important for our country to go. I believe that.
Welcome to FaceTime with Leaders, a podcast by Directors Institute World Council of Directors, where we sit down with trailblazers redefining corporate governance, finance, and business strategy. I'm your host for today, Priya George. Today, we are honored to have Mr. Partha Basu, a powerhouse in corporate banking, risk management, and B2B e-commerce, with over 3 decades of expertise from managing a 230,000 crore in assets at Yes Bank to driving business growth at Larsen and Toubro SuFin. His leadership has transformed financial frameworks and governance models across the industry. In this episode, we uncover his insights on risk, governance, FinTech, and the future of corporate banking. If you're looking for expert strategies and leadership lessons, this is the conversation for you. So let's dive in. Welcome, Partha, to FaceTime with Leaders. It is an honor to speak with you today.
Thanks so much, Directors Institute, for having me on FaceTime with Leaders. It's a pleasure to be here. Always looking forward. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And the pleasure is ours as well. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. Partha, your career spans over 3 decades, navigating the complexities of corporate banking, SME, risk management, and B2B finance. But before we get into the finer details, let's start with something light. So looking back, was there a defining moment that set you on this path, maybe an early challenge that shaped your leadership style, or could be a decision that changed everything? We'd love to hear about the journey straight from you.
Okay. So, ma'am, just to set the backdrop, I started my journey in banking as a probationary officer in 1990. It was a bank called Oriental Bank of Commerce. Now it is merged with PNB. It has ceased to exist.
Okay.
So my journey started with Bhopal, then Delhi, Jaipur, and all that. So I remember episode which happened in around end of 1992. Okay, so that time I was doing my rural stint. Earlier, all bankers had to do a rural work of 2 years. Okay, so that's was the thing for officers.
Okay.
So that time I was doing near a place called Chomu. Chomu is on Jaipur Sikar Road. Okay, it was about 10-12 kilometers from Chomu. That village was there. So me and my clerk used to stay over there, and I was. It was a two-man branch basically. Okay. So we had something called DRI loans. Okay. DRI loans are no longer in vogue now. DRI, I think, has ceased to exist from 2016. The DRI was the full form of the acronym is differential rate of interest loan. There were small ticket loans, 2,500 rupees, 4,000, 6,000 odd. And in 1992, it had some value. Okay. Today, it may not have so much of value. So one day morning, it was early morning. So I heard someone was knocking on my door. Okay. So I came out and saw a villager. So he had basically told me that, sir, मेरा एक DRI loan है, आप अगर करवा देंगे तो अच्छा रहेगा. So I asked him for what it was. So he said it was for a camel cart, Utladda. Okay, so that's what. In rural Rajasthan, camel cart is the mode of transport for, because it's a sandy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that's there. So, and he was, by way of gratis, he was offering me the services of someone very close. Okay. I was flabbergasted because it was in the early days of my job. It was hardly my second year. Okay. So I heard him out. I asked him what his vocation was, what was his trade, whether My basic query was that whether he will be able to use that camel cart to earn a living. So then I asked that, and then I said, let me go through that. I won't commit you anything. I don't need any services from whatever you are telling. But तुम किस्ती चुका देना, you repay the loan, because in those days there was this custom of loan waiver used to happen before elections. Okay, that was a political dispensation. So what happened used that people had a custom of not repaying loans. Okay, because loan used to get waived up to 10,000 loan waive हो गया. So whatever the person who has repaid the loan, he feels cheated because he has repaid the loan. उसको 4,000 रुपया चुका और जो 10,000 लेके एक पैसा भी नहीं चुका उसको पूरा लोन चुक गया, and he didn't have to pay off. Okay, so anyway, be that as it may. So then I understood the value this 4,000 rupees loan had to him in uplifting his family. It was so necessary that he was offering the services of someone very close to him. So I felt that that was one momentous thing which made up my mind to go and keep in loan. Banking has various services. I had done with most part of branch banking at that point in time. So I decided that I will stick to loans and advances. So that was one thing which kept me to the business of selling money, which is what I have done all my life. Okay, I've been selling money. Loan बेचता था मैं. So that's there. And from there, I moved to CAD and risk, the gradual progression that happened. That was one thing. Another thing was that happened just to move the second point, which sort of cemented my role in the credit side, was that when I came to Kolkata, I appeared for CAT and then I got into this IIM Calcutta. Okay. So then I majored in finance. So there I had frequent interaction with my professors and industry leaders. And there I understood the value of finance, because finance is something I understood that is the crux of a lot of things, if not everything, right, in this material. So I understood, and that that sort of I have kept interacting with them quite frequently now. Also, I keep interacting with them, and that gives me a lot of value and a lot of insights into a lot of things that are happening. So these are the two things that sort of stuck me into the business of selling money or credit and advances, from where I progressed to CAD and risk and the other things, which was a gradual evolution. I will put it like that.
I had a question when you were narrating, where you talked about that experience when you were, working in rural Rajasthan.
Yeah.
What about that incident, made you decide to join, take that particular path in finance and banking, where you talk about, loans and credit and all of that? Was it the fact that, you felt empathy, or was it, I'm just trying to understand what aspect of that particular incident, shook your core, is what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah,
That a person had to talk about offering services, how, what dire circumstances the person might have gone through.
Yeah, it sort of, hit me in the eye. I will put it like that. It sort of hit me in the eye. I sort of could step into his shoes and understand to what extent you need the money, that you will offer the services of someone very, very close to you. Okay,
Understood.
I can't expose more than that.
Yes,
It's a
yes,
podcast.
absolutely.
So,
yes.
otherwise, you won't offer the services of someone very close to you as a gratis for getting that 4,000 rupees loan.
Yes.
And secondly, what was the marginal utility of money to that person? See, what was his monthly income, so that for a 4,000 rupee loan, he can uplift his family and take care of his kids and family, right?
Understood.
So the marginal utility of money to that villager is so much that he needs it anyhow. So that sort of showed me the sort of poverty that is there in rural India, and how much that money matters to them. It is another matter that some of them misuse it. That's a different thing, but it matters to them. Otherwise, उतना हद तक कोई जाता नहीं. That's what
I
I
agree. I agree.
that was
So there is a term that I came across called as the crucible experience. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's a experience, a life-changing experiences that
exactly.
completely changes how your outlook towards life and your outlook towards everything. So I think it's safe to say that must have been a crucible experience for you in your professional journey, I'm thinking.
Yeah, ma'am, you
Um,
can say that. It completely maybe changed my course, or rather, it sort of cemented my course that I will do this.
mm,
So it sort
understood.
of I sort of said, okay, I found my pathway. It was like that.
Understood. 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 And that's fascinating sometimes how those, experiences or unexpected turns that define our path. So thank you for sharing that with us. I really appreciate it. Partha, managing credit portfolios worth over 230,000 crore rupees is no small feat. It is a responsibility that comes with immense pressure, high stake decisions, and moments that really test one's leadership. So, could you take us back to that moment? What was going through your mind, and how did it shape the way you see risk today?
Well, it was a journey, I will say. It was a challenging journey, but when I look back, I look back with pride about the way it was conducted. Okay. So I have been on the relationship side for quite some time. Okay. In OBC and Axis. I will later on from OBC
Mm,
I moved to Axis and then to, yes, okay, that was my journey in
okay.
the banking domain more or less.
Mm,
So I've been on the relationship side. I have been through SME, uh,
mm,
and they were early days. I'm talking of between 1992 to 2004, 5, 6, those days.
mm, mm,
And then I have seen the evolution of risk management. In fact, from when in Axis Bank the risk management domain started as a vertical, it
mm.
started. BCG was interested with the job, Boston Consulting Group.
Okay.
So I used to
Okay.
interact frequently with the risk model which they were developing, tweaking it, what are the parameters, what are the weightages to give. Okay. I've been from the early days in that domain also. So given the
Mm,
experience that happened, and I have always believed in learning. I have, even today I keep learning. And in fact, World Development Institute has also, I've learned a lot of things from you also about structured training. So
right.
I believed in learning. So
Mm,
those things were there. But coming to this point in YBL, yes, where I was there from 2016 to 2019.
mm,
So it was a
mm,
very large book of fund and non-fund based advances. So basically, the entire book, I used to do a lot of regulatory reporting for that. Okay. So the entire
mm,
regulatory reporting, which used to go to RBI, used to go from
mm,
my mail ID. This was the approved mail ID to RBI. Okay.
mm,
So, like you said, there are a lot of challenges of business,
mm,
trade-off between business and compliance. That was always
mm,
there. My team of about 160, 70 odd was spread across three locations. We were
mm,
basically housed in Mumbai at the head office. That time it was in Indiabulls Finance Center, well, Finstone Station,
mm, mm.
there, and then Gurgaon I had a setup and Bangalore I had a setup. Later on, we created a setup in Gift City, Gujarat. Okay. So these were
Okay.
the four locations where we were present at that point in time. So there were obviously challenges between business and compliance. Business wanted everything to be so to give you in brief, our scope was the entire post-sanction part of any loan. Okay.
Okay.
Once a
Okay.
sanction happens, the post-sanction part, the going through the credit mm, CAM, credit approval memorandum, what we call, going
Right.
whether it has been done properly with the risk approvals in place. That is one thing, vetting that
Mm,
as per policy. Okay, policy vetting used to
mm,
be done by my team. Then the documentation and security creation. Okay, if there is an
mm,
exception, the exception management. Okay, and the
mm,
entire works, the regulatory reporting, the audit, and all those things. Okay.
mm.
Suppose subsequent to that, any board meetings of audit committee of the board or RMC, entire thing used to be covered in my domain.
Understood.
So obviously, daily challenges were there, and I used to handle 7 verticals. Okay, starting
Mm,
from SME to corporate banking to large corporate and all that. Okay. And
Understood.
Yes
Yes.
Bank was a corporate focused bank at that point in time. It was not so
Okay.
retail focused. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
obviously corporate used to take up around 75% of the loan book at that point in time.
Okay.
Obviously the
Okay.
pressure on my team was there. National heads calling कि ये कर दो वो कर दो वो disbursement कर
Hmm.
दो वो कर दो, that was there. So we had some benchmarks, and I used to sit with my team often, and I used to travel also. Because what happens is your entire team should be with you in
Hmm.
navigating how to go about it. And once the principles are set, then things become a bit easier. Okay. So what
Hmm.
we used to do is that if there was a large ticket loan, or if there was a loan where we felt it is dicey,
Hmm.
securitization must happen upfront, although there may be a time given. Okay, that was one thing which we followed. Okay. If they still insist or they give an approval that you disburse it later on, things will happen, then it's an eventuality, but that is not the norm. Okay. So, and over time, people understood that. See, nothing happens overnight. But when they know that,
Hmm.
okay, this unit will first do securitization and then disburse it, unless
Hmm.
that there's an exception, they normally accept it. It is not a
Hmm.
migration of thought that happened overnight, but over a period of a few months, or I will say about a year, most of the business side understood, and we had frequent meetings with them. Okay, and that was one thing. Security creation, like I've told you, security creation, what I have found is my experience is that before giving money, you are a donor, your hand is like this, you are a giver.
Hmm.
But after the money is given, your money hand is like this. Okay.
Yes.
So that's one thing I have seen. So you are, I won't say you are a beggar, but your position of strength has gone after giving the money. And
Correct.
then the
Correct.
customer will not show up, securification hoga nahi, kuch problem hoga, all those things happen. So that is something that happens that I've learned with experience. So we used to insist on securification upfront wherever possible, right?
Okay.
Now coming to the RBI reporting, like I told you, there are RBS tranche 1 and 1A, these two
Okay.
reporting. I used to send about 39 reports, okay, every quarter from my ID. So these are basically reports on exposure versus collateral. What is the unsecured part? What is the credit margin that is required? What is the capital that is required? All those things, okay.
Sorry, you said 39 reports per
39.
quarter?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Every
Okay.
quarter, 39. Yeah.
Okay.
RBS tranche 1 and 1A.
Okay.
So these are basically extracted from your collateral. So what is the amount of collateral you have against any exposure, and then
Hmm.
basis that evaluations happen. Okay.
Understood.
So when I joined, I found out that unlike Axis, I will relate to Axis because Axis, the core banking system was on Finacle. Okay, Finacle is the core
Okay.
banking system which is widely used. So they had a
Got
very
it.
good collateral module. In Axis, when I
Hmm.
was heading credit administration in corporate banking Mumbai at Nariman Point, so what happened?
Hmm.
There, the collateral module used to give throughout very good quality reports, and you could more or less use that report for generating your final report, which will go to RBI. Okay. Although the final
Hmm.
report used
Hmm.
to go from head office, I didn't send that, but I used to send for my book in Axis
Hmm.
Mumbai.
Hmm.
But here,
Okay.
the core banking was from Oracle. Okay, there's another core
Okay.
banking from Oracle. So we found that the collateral model was not that robust, and which had led to people not populating that data because data extraction was not happening in the way each tranche one report wants. Okay, so they had
Hmm.
to do it manually, effectively. So this
Got
was
it. Got
effectively
it.
what I found. This was an Excel data which each service RM was maintaining. Each guy, a service RM is a person in my unit who is populating that data. Suppose he is handling 20 accounts. For those 20
Hmm.
accounts,
Hmm.
he will keep this data. So
Okay.
this was becoming a problem. Found that Excel is not something you can rely on. There can be manual errors, there can be deletion, there can be addition. Okay,
Hmm.
there can be omission and commission. So I red flagged it immediately to my boss, to both the
Hmm.
CEO and the chief risk officer. Both of them I flagged.
Hmm.
They were aware, but it was my job to red flag it. And then I said we need an automation module that is necessary. So
Okay.
then we had immediate meetings with Oracle, and we had a quite a few round of meeting. They tweaked it to some extent, and then we also had a round of meeting with regarding LOS, a loan origination system, which will populate
Okay.
all this data of all verticals. See, I am looking at corporate banking. There's SME, there's retail, there's credit card, there's agriculture. Okay, there were
Mm,
6 units. So all those data will be pulled, and then the report will come, and also the NPA management will happen. So we put that in
understood.
place. Okay, so initially there was a vendor whom I knew, because one more thing I will say is that networking is very important, because this guy
Mm,
I knew from my RBI interaction. I used to keep visiting RBI for some policy meetings and all that. That
okay.
was something I
Okay.
had, because there were people whom I knew and they used to call me on and off. So this
Okay.
guy was used by RBI for all this loan origination and NPA reporting. So I roped him in because I knew he will be acceptable to RBI. That is very
Mm,
important, what the regulator feels about the vendor you are using. So, and then we took the services. So he took a timeline of 30 months, 2.5 years to do that. That
mm,
was the plan. Then when we had the POC, proof of concept and all those things, parallel runs. So that was thing that we started. I could not see the completion of that. By the time I moved out, the parallel runs were happening, where both the system report and the manual report that was being verified across 2 quarters to see the correctness of the data. So that was where I moved out. So this is what I will say. And one more thing is, we had this. I had to meet during the board. That was my first step into the board room. I will say on
okay.
the 23rd floor. It was there.
Okay.
So ACB, all ACBs I had to go. Audit committee of the board I had to go. There were some queries which I had to respond. So initially,
Right.
my boss used to reply, and from then on, once he got the confidence, I used to respond. That was my first hang of the boardroom,
So true.
and also the RMC, Risk Management Committee. These two meetings I used to go every quarter, and also during the April annual balance sheet times that was there. So this was
Right.
my experience of that. One thing I will highlight is that managing a book you cannot do yourself. It's a team exposure. So getting proper people and putting proper people in those places is very important. So I have to
Yes.
ensure that obviously there was a gap between budget versus actual manpower, which is there, but quality was very important. So when
Right.
interviewing, I used to do mostly face to face wherever possible,
Okay.
because in those days, this pre-COVID, so much of Zoom and all was not there, okay, right?
Was not there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Post-COVID, those
Yes.
things have come to go.
Things changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So uh, one thing I used to focus on post-interview was market feedback. Because in credit, if there is one thing which is very important, I feel is integrity.
Mm,
Very,
okay.
very, very important. In credit, integrity is very important.
Mm,
Okay.
understood.
So,
Understood.
I used to believe in, just as we have KYC, know your customer bank has, I used to also believe in KYE, know your employee.
Employee.
So that
That's
I will leave it at that.
yeah. Yeah, that's a very insightful response. And those must have been like, a collection of incredibly intense moments and decisions like that really define leadership. Moving on, Partha being recognized as the best CAD partner is a huge achievement. It's a testament to your expertise and leadership in credit administration. But success like this isn't just about technical skills, it comes from a guiding principle or a core approach you swear by in high stakes decision making. If you had to define that one principle, like you stressed on the importance of ethics in one of your previous responses, but if you had to define that one principle, your North Star, if you can say so, in managing risk and compliance, what would it be?
Ma'am, if it is one thing, I will stick to integrity and commitment to the institution. That's one thing I will stick to, which I told just now.
Right,
So that is very
right.
important for me and my team, because you don't know where there is a leakage. If my team is not up to it, if there's an integrity issue or a commitment issue or a attitude issue, then things will fall apart. So it is
I
important
agree.
that everybody is stitched with the same thread in your unit, so that they all are working for the institution and the trade. That is very important.
True.
I will say very, very important. And it's I will say a software, I will say, not, it's not a hardware, right? It's a software which needs to be built in and needs to be cultivated. It was my job to
True.
cultivate it, my and my one downs. So to cultivate
Mm.
that with the team so that they kept at it. Because there
Like
are
a
challenges.
culture.
Yeah, that culture is very important to
True.
imbibe and maintain. Because there are obviously challenges and it is always so easy to give up, right? तो giving up is
Yes.
always, नीचे उतरना बहुत आसान है, ऊपर चढ़ने में दिक्कत होता है. So
True.
it is very easy to give up. Sometimes you feel, I will tell you examples, right?
Yeah.
Suppose something came up, suppose the sanction comes in at, let's say, 5 p.m., okay? And then you go through the camp, उसमें then they will say आज disbursement करना है इसको, ठीक है?
Mm.
Then and it's, let's say it's a weekend, it's a Friday or Saturday. Okay? And then you go through the documentation, you check it, these are the issues. Then he goes, then my service RM will go back to the RM and these are the issues. Then he
Mm.
will, okay, I'm taking approvals. Okay. Approval will take time. Maybe it will be 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. Okay, and then
Mm.
maybe the disbursement will happen. After that, he will check that,
Mm.
okay, whether the approval is in norm with the policy, you'll have to check that. So these are things my people used to stick around. It's not that they will have to go home early, so they will bypass and all that. These are things people
Understood.
used to. And this is, I'm telling you, a very basic thing. So many things have happened. I mean, if I relate, it will be a very longest discussion. That's there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's always a trade-off between balancing business with compliance. That is
True.
there. So
True.
one
True.
thing which we kept is I will be true to the institution and my trade. And
Right.
second is this will come later, maybe during the course of discussion. We are
Yes.
working for the institution, not for any individual.
True.
That is very
True.
important. The-
True.
See, I was very pally with the CEO or the CRO, or even in cases, CEO used to call me for his personal these things and all that.
Mm.
But when my chair demanded, I had told no. That's all. And it is important to say why you are telling me, because then they
Right.
will accept. Okay. So there have
Makes
been
sense.
instances. So, but when my chair demanded, when my role demanded that this is a no-go, it was a no. So that
Makes
is something
sense.
that mm, happened. That was there,
Right.
right? So normally,
That.
I will just recap some of the things which we used to do.
Yeah.
Normally, like I told, if there's a big ticket advance or a risky advance, we used to ensure on security creation upfront because what I inherited was a huge backlog of security creation pending accounts. Okay, so that was
Mm.
a problem. I said incremental security creation pending बंद करो. जो legacy
Mm.
है, that's one thing, but incremental, let us stop it. So once we put on the brakes, people understood it took about 6 months to 9 months for the business side to align to that, and also the other, let's say the other people in power to align to that. And then after that, things became acceptance came because for acceptance to come, it has to come from the entire bank. I am not working in a silo, right? I am an
Correct.
enabler to the business side. Okay.
Correct.
So
Correct.
previously the mindset was that, okay, CAD is a disabler. That thing we negated by having frequent meetings with the business side so that they understood our side of the coin and we understood their side of the coin. So that way
Mm.
acceptance was much easier. Communication was there. Okay, and I
Mm.
used to tell my team, talk face to face. Mails will be there for record. If I have to create a
Mm.
record, a mail is obviously there so that my file is clear. Okay, but have face to face discussion. A lot of things are resolved face to face. Just sending a mail
Understood.
doesn't happen. A mail is for the record for my file. Okay, for staff accountability issues, the mail is obviously there. But other than that,
But
have face
have
to
a
face discussion. So we
one-on-one.
used to do that.
Yes. Right.
So
Right.
that was, and like I told, staff quality. So
Mm.
I did some, what I will say, some,
KYE.
yeah, some I did that KYE, I did that, and also incremental stuff. And if I felt some stuff was not up to it, they were given a lead time, and then after that we changed them. So that happened. So those things
Okay.
happened. I think over a period of time that helped because I could not be there
Right.
in all places at all time. I was based in
True.
Mumbai. I used to travel once, typically between every 2 months, has to travel to Gurgaon and Bangalore. But other than that, they were on their own. So that's what.
Right.
Those are some of the
Right.
things that helped.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing those responses with us. And that's a powerful guiding principle. It really speaks to why you've been recognized as one of the best in the field. Partha, you've had a front row seat to one of the most transformative shifts in the financial world, watching traditional banking evolve into a fintech driven ecosystem. So, in your experience, what has been the most profound change impacting SME finance, something that fundamentally redefined the way banks, businesses, and even customers think about finance and why it's important for India?
Well, what I will say is SME or MSME, as they say in Indian parlance, medium and small and medium enterprises. So that is a very important cog in the wheel for our country to develop. Okay. So many of us don't understand that, but see, they are small players mostly. So, for example, every startup today is an SME. You start as an SME, then you grow, right? So
Makes
every
sense. Yeah.
startup is an SME. Okay. So, and if I go into numbers, I will just give you some numbers. So,
Sure.
As of 2023, as per the data available, there are about 63 million SME organizations in our country.
Okay.
Some are registered, some unregistered, but 63 million is the total. Back of the palm, 1/4 of that is on the manufacturing side. Okay. And the balance 3/4 are in the services side. Okay. So that's the back of the palm calculation. Their contribution to GDP is manufacturing contributes about 8% of India's GDP. And the services SME side contributes of 30%. So overall aggregating about 38% of the GDP. Okay, that's a big number. And as we grow, the plan in Viksit Bharat is to go to 30 trillion, and we are at about nearing 4 to 5, about 5-ish. So it's a huge growth. So obviously their contribution has to be manifold. That's one thing. Similarly, in exports, they contribute about 40%. Okay. So, and exports, you know, the value today with the uh, rupee depreciating and all that. So the value of export is huge, and more so with, and defense also, the numbers are good. Defense also, small and medium enterprises contribute a big number. Okay. They employ about 113 million people. That is approx again 40% of the workforce. So in India, we are the largest populated, well, the most highest populated country in the world, right? So, and we keep talking of demographic dividend. So, these SME companies are the companies who actually can reap the demographic dividend. Because as you know, the large corporates, they use so many other things to replace manpower, like they use robots and all that, like a lot of auto plants and all that they have to use, okay, for various reasons, okay. So ultimately, I have to gainfully use my manpower, right? Otherwise, it becomes another issue. Unemployment is a big issue if I cannot use this. So SME has a big role in doing that. Another thing is that an SME, a startup starts with an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is somebody who is willing to take risks, and not everybody can do that, right? So nowadays we find the culture of people passing out from IIT and then starting as an entrepreneur. Previously, it was not there. At least they have some backup. Maybe they are a second generation, so they have some backup. Father has some capital in place, so that is good. Entrepreneurship is a mindset which is very important for our country to go. I believe that because they accept the risk-taking ability. Okay. Today you have this startup India and make in India. If you have to do that, MSME has to play a major role. With large corporate or mid corporate, you cannot do all that. And an SME will tomorrow migrate to a mid corporate. Day after it will migrate to a large corporate. Right? That's the way it will work. You have got examples of Amul and Nirma and all that. They were all SMEs, and now they are so big. Right?
Yes.
Another thing is, Still the majority of our population lives in rural and tier 2 locations. So these help in upliftment of those places, right? So that is there. Another thing which I take as an advantage is that China plus one model, which is coming to the fore now. China plus one. People want to de-risk from China, particularly after COVID, because supply chain was grossly impacted during COVID. So
Right.
that's one thing. And I also feel with Trump coming in play, the tariff will positively impact us rather than negatively. I feel that. So because
Okay.
China tariffs have already been imposed, although they are telling on India also they will impose from April. But ultimately they have to procure from some place. And India,
Correct.
the
Correct.
cost of production is very low. So they will have to import.
Understood.
Here I feel SME is playing a big role. Okay. So it was a
Understood.
bit of a diversion from the original question, but the value of SME I thought I wanted to put in place. Now coming to
Makes
what the
sense.
changes happened. One thing is that uh, when I joined, I will tell you from 1991, we used to have a book, okay. When somebody has put in an application for a priority sector on an SSI, 21 days used to be the tag within which I have to respond to it. Okay.
Okay.
It was 3 weeks was the tag. I'm talking of 35 years back. Okay. SSI, there used to be small scale industries, SSI registration and all that used to happen. Today, thanks to a lot of things, okay, NBFCs, FinTech, and also normal banks, if it is collateral free, it is normally done within 4 to 5 days. Okay, that's a big improvement. Okay, I'm not telling it is happening always, but the normal TAT has come down substantially. If it is a
Understood.
collateral backed loan, there is some time for doing a property search and all those things. But after that, it happens. I will say within a week to 10 days, normally a sanction happens. If it is a go, if it is a no go, that's a different thing. Okay, I'm not going into that. Right? That's there. So that is one thing. And there have been a lot of acceptance and government push for moving things for SME. Okay.
Okay.
So government has in the previous year's budget, they have made it mandatory for large corporates to make any debtors payment to SME within 45 days. Okay. Otherwise, they have to disclose it within their balance sheet, okay, which is
Okay.
penalized. Okay. So that because
Right.
previously their payments used to be delayed to more than 45 days, and obviously the operating cycle gets working capital cycle gets disrupted. Okay. SME is typically not so cash rich, right? That's why they are an SME. Finance is a perennial program for them.
Understood.
Banks, again, from the bank side, they have followed what we call in banking parlance is brilliant basics. Banking has something called brilliant basics, we call that. One is the right and quick onboarding. That is one thing. Right onboarding, because I should not be onboarding a fraud client and all that. So right onboarding and quick onboarding, that is one part. Second is transparent credit decision. Okay, decision is normally opaque or at best I will say translucent. Okay,
Okay.
so it is transparent credit decision. Okay, and third is low transaction cost, preferably on a real-time basis.
Okay.
So when somebody comes to me for loan, he will ask me two things. होगा कि नहीं, कब होगा? दो ही चीज पूछेगा. Right? If,
Correct.
if a borrower needs money, he will ask me whether it will happen or not, and if it happens, when it will happen. हाँ, उसके लिए मुझे ये collateral देना पड़ेगा, वो करेगा. Those things they will ask. Right? That's the gist of whatever what a customer wants and what I am required to give. I will ask for my documentation and all that. But so these are the few things which a customer wants. So if I have to tell him no, it makes sense to tell no early so that he can go to another bank and or another option to go that. Okay, that's one thing. So these are some of the changes which have happened, and I will talk of the few enablers now. Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
another thing which has happened is previously bank was the only mode where a customer could go for getting money. Nowadays,
Yeah.
last few years, both NSE and otherwise, you will find so many SME IPOs coming up.
Correct.
So
Correct.
SME IPO is a very uh, good means of raising capital,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Right. And there you
Okay.
are not giving dividend upfront. You are giving dividend only you are making a profit. Okay. So your interest cost is also net there. Whereas in a loan, it is like a cab, right? आपने cab में चढ़ा तो मीटर चालू हो गया. So here you
Correct.
pay interest later on. Maybe later on you will pay, sorry, you pay dividend later on. Maybe when you make profit, you pay dividend higher, or the if you have an IPO for a 10 rupee face value, maybe the listed value is 100 rupees. So you make a capital gain and all that. But that
Correct.
somebody with investing capital, he is discounting, right? I will have an IPO 3 years later. So that's something that has come into play. The numbers are rising and the numbers are good. And a lot of enablers have been put in place. I will start with the oldest one, which is SIDBI. Okay.
Okay.
Mudra loans are there. Mudra loans are
Hmm.
basically zero collateral loans which happen. Okay.
Okay.
So it was initially up to 1 crore. Now it has been scaled up. There is a credit guarantee scheme for medium and small enterprises, what they call CGTMSE. There are various NBFCs who have come in play. The only issue is the NBFC give you a loan faster. I will talk particularly of Bajaj Finance and all those types.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So, but the pricing is a bit higher because their risk is they're taking more risk. Okay, so that the
Hmm.
pricing is a bit higher from banks. Typically,
Hmm.
maybe 200 to 250 basis points higher than a bank. That's what it is.
Hmm.
But you get a loan faster.
Understood.
So supply chain finances come up. Let's say, suppose somebody is a vendor of Maruti.
Okay.
So the bank will give a loan based on the comfort of Maruti. There are various mechanisms so that the supply will go only to Maruti. And when the payment comes from Maruti, the payment will go directly to the bank. So that's a sort of indirect escrow account which the bank has. Okay, these are
Understood.
mechanisms which bank has devised to secure their cash flow. Okay, so
Understood.
that loan asset quality remains standard. It doesn't become an NPA. That is the
Understood.
another thing which has happened over the last few years. I will say last decade or so is trades, TREDS, that is there. So there is MCX and other players in that. So there, basically what happens is that once an SME vendor has supplied to, these are mostly for large corporates, okay, large or mid corporates,
Hmm.
then there are banks who discount that bill. Suppose the bill value is 10 lakhs.
Okay.
So on the trends platform, maybe there's Bank of Baroda, there's Axis Bank, there is Yes Bank, there may be HDFC Bank or
Hmm.
SBI and all that. So they will see, okay, this is the debtor, okay, this is the company to which they have sold. Suppose they have sold to L&T,
Hmm.
okay, and this is the bill pending, and the payment cycle is the L&T will pay them after 45 days. So for 10 lakh,
Okay.
maybe the SBI will give a rate of maybe 9%, Bank of Baroda may
Hmm.
give a rate of 8.8%, somebody may give a rate
Hmm.
of 9.5%. Okay, so trades is another way where you can discount your debtors so that your cash flow cycle becomes much shorter. Okay, so
Understood.
these are some of the things which have happened over the last 20, 25 years, which have evolved, which are
Right.
good tools for SME to grow. Yeah, is that post-COVID, SME has started using digital channels in a big way. Okay.
Got
So you
it.
will see Swiggy, Zomato, Blinkit is not only for food, it is for traders and all also, right?
Absolutely.
And government has started this GM portal, government GM portal. So where all this quotation and this tendering happens on this GM portal. So that has been a level playing field for SMEs. They can also submit their quotes on GM, and if they are L1, then they get the order. And
Understood.
coming to this digital channel, ONDC is one initiative that is in the making. This
Hmm.
digital platforms, okay, ONDC government has
Hmm.
initiated that. That should go a long way in enabling this SME going digital. That's one thing, one
Got
more
it.
thing which I should not miss. And FinTech
Got it.
obviously is playing its role. FinTech is something that was not there earlier, but
Hmm.
FinTech is playing its role. Coming to the
Got it.
downside and issues, I will say one is cybersecurity has been a major pain last few years. All of us should be aware, and
Absolutely.
it is important that we don't get duped. Okay, so many people get duped. Only even some of my bankers friends have got duped, unfortunately.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that is a cybersecurity is a big pain now, and all of us needs to be aware. about sharing information. That is there.
True, true. I agree.
Another
I
issue,
agree.
yeah, very, I mean, like it has become an industry nowadays. Professionals are running that and they are so smart that they know how to fool people. So that is becoming a way of earning, unfortunately. So that is there. Skill development is an issue for SME. Skilling India
Hmm.
will help, and I feel people like us we can give back to society. It is our role to skill people, because what happens in SME at the startup, it is mostly one or two man show. He is doing the sales, he is doing the manufacturing, he is
Hmm.
doing the finance, he is doing the recovery. Everything he is
Hmm.
doing. So it cannot happen, he or she, whatever. So skilling is important. Finance is still an issue, availability of finance and timely finance. Because
Hmm.
delayed finance doesn't help. A company may go bankrupt within that time. Finance is an
Understood.
issue. And infrastructure is also an issue. So these are some things which we need to address as
Understood.
we move to the Viksit Bharat thing.
Right.
That's
Right.
it.
Makes sense. Thank you for sharing so many important perspectives with us. Partha, with such an illustrious career shaping corporate banking, risk management, and fintech driven transformations, we can't help but wonder what's next for you. As someone who has led at the highest levels, what are your future aspirations, both in the industry and within the boardroom? Do you see yourself playing a more strategic governance role, influencing policy, or do you see yourself mentoring the next generation of leaders?
Good question, ma'am. So actually, I've been thinking over it. One thing is what I have started with your institute. That is one path which will I will obviously be taking. That is the strategic governance and the boardroom role.
Hmm.
Because I feel that as we move to the Viksit Bharat by 2047, we need a lot of good companies who follow best practices.
True.
See, we don't know anymore. We don't need any more Enrons now, right? We know Enron is a very old story. I don't know if you remember that, but Enron was a
Yes.
story in where best practices were not followed, right? So
Yeah.
it is important that we grow slow and steady, but we grow the correct way. It may be the hard way, but we grow. So following best practices is very important. Like I have navigated with these challenges, so these are there. So
Hmm.
following best practices and what are the values that help you follow these best practices, that is very important. So that is one thing which I will obviously be pursuing.
Hmm. Hmm.
I have to lot to learn also. I have been learning a lot of things from the ESG and other things. And as we get digitized, thankfully, I'm a bit digitally savvy. I will not say I'm as digitally savvy probably as you, because the younger you are, the more digitally savvy you are, right?
That's
And
great.
now, yeah, and now AI is another thing that's coming. So I'm trying to get my hands on that somehow, including generative AI. So these things will play their roles, okay? But the basic core values will remain. That's what I feel. जो हिंदी में बोलता है ना साहूकार होना, ultimately you have to be a sahukar. That is very important, because if you are not sahukar, it will take you some steps. You can fool people sometime, but you cannot fool everyone every time. That's very important. You have to be sahukar, because otherwise
Right.
you cannot follow the long path. You cannot grow
Correct.
too much. That's very important. So that's
Absolutely.
one role which I see for me. Another is mentoring of leaders and trade officials and risk officials. In fact, I do a lot of discussions with industry bodies and chamber of commerce as we speak. So that is one thing I do where I can share the insights and how
Correct.
I'm part of some committees where SME committees and finance committees where across associations where they take my inputs on how to evolve and grow and how to navigate challenges. So
Great.
these are some things where I feel I can add value. And as things evolve, as our growth rate uh, becomes more on a GP based from arithmetic progression, we move to a geometric progression. So which I feel will happen over the next few decades. So
True. True.
whatever role I feel I can add value, I'm open to that. That's the way I.
Absolutely. And based on all your responses, it is clear that you are a visionary in a sense, uh, because you are a lifelong learner and you continue to evolve with such a strong vision. And you're not thinking about the future uh, just for yourself, but also for the industry as a whole. So we wish you nothing but continued success. Partha, corporate governance is uh, often talked about as a buzzword. But for leaders like yourself, who have been deeply involved in risk, compliance, and high stake decision making, it's far more than just a concept. It's a backbone of ethical leadership and long term sustainability. In your experience, if there's one governance principle that should never be compromised, I know we have talked about integrity and what the value systems of the organization, staying true to the organization. I remember you saying that. Apart from that, one governance principle, uh, no matter the pressure or circumstances, what would that be?
Uh, See, man, I see what happened is if we talk of work-life balance, I'm thankful to my family. Unfortunately,
Mm,
I didn't have a work-life balance. Okay, for most part of my
mm,
life. Okay, most of
mm,
my time, my what I will say, my youth and my active time was spent in office only, right? And I used to go
mm.
home typically 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. There were weekends where I used to come to office, and some of my team members used to come to office. Okay,
Correct. Yeah.
so that's the way it is, unfortunately, because we are a first generation thing, and India, unfortunately, it is still a developing country. It's not a developed country, right? So we have to
Correct.
slow. You know it. You have to work on weekends and all that. So
Hustle.
I take my office as my temple.
Okay.
Where my chair, my workstation, my cabin, as I evolved, is my temple. That's the way I take it.
Okay.
And I believe my karma should be done accordingly.
Mm,
That's the way I take it. Uh, I am spending the major part of my active life over here. My
mm,
friends are part of my life. Okay, my family is obviously there, and they are my relation, my blood relations. But
mm,
my extended family is my office colleague, right? So that's what.
mm.
So my work should be in line with that. And I will repeat what I told. Integrity and commitment to institution.
Integrity.
That is very much there. And a few things which I've learned, like again at the cost of repeating, not working for the CRO or the
Individual.
CEO or the CEO. Yeah, not working for the individual. See, there were many days where on weekends we used to play games and all that together. Okay, personal relationship is fine. But where it is pertaining to my seat, where it is official, when it's a no-go, I used to red
It's a
flag
no.
and say it's a no. But at the same time, it is important how you say no and why you say no,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that is very important because ultimately you have to survive in the institution, right? So
Makes
that
sense. Yes.
how I say no, why I say no, it is very clear. They know the details, they know the policy. I am telling this as per my chair. This is where I stand. If you want to override, fine. You take the approval. That's fine.
Mm.
I will take a specific example. There was a
Yes,
case
please.
where on the other side, my CRO was there and the CEO was there. Okay. So there, Mumbai. So we were discussing on something, it needed to be done. So I told him, this is the policy, this is the RBI guideline, I cannot do this because of this. They sat for some time. Then
Mm,
then my CEO nodded his head. So that's what it is. So you have to, and they're all rational people, right? So unless someone takes it on their ego, that's a different thing. It's very difficult to navigate at that point in time. So that is why
mm,
it is important to keep learning what I tell. So you need
mm,
to be very thorough with the circulars, with the guidelines, and networking helps a lot. In that case, I will tell you, one of my professors told me this is the thing where you can. On one of my professors from IIM Bangalore, I did something on risk from IIM Bangalore also. So your networking is very important so that at that point in time you may not get the information from a senior in your bank. In
mm.
fact, your senior in the bank is someone who are telling no, right? So you have to get that
Correct.
information from someone in. in the system. Okay, and by system I mean someone outside the organization, maybe from RBI or some professor or whatever, or your colleague in another bank. So that you need to go navigate. So then
Makes sense.
they understood, they accepted. That's there. And because that thing needed a board approval. And told as per policy, even if you give a go ahead, I cannot do it because it needs a board approval. And board was not meeting immediately. So
Okay.
it couldn't happen.
Understood.
So that is there. You have to navigate that. There are challenges that you have to do. So as per my job description, this is what I am telling, and this is the reason I'm telling. So,
Right.
ma'am, what I want to say is that at the end of the day,
Integrity.
you are answerable to yourself,
Makes sense.
right? You are
Yes.
answerable to yourself. You should, I believe that once I go home, I should work in a way that I can sleep well. I should not have a
I
heavy mind.
agree. I agree.
Right? That is very important. After a long day's work, I should be able to sleep. I should
Yes.
be true कि
Yes.
मेरे हिसाब से जो करना था वो मैं किया. That's very important.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
So because
Absolutely.
ultimately, see, life and banking is about managing risk. Risk is always there, right? You have to manage risk. So I will say some of the tools which we used to use. Tech, you have told, we used to leverage tech and data. There was a lot of data. Okay. This example which I was telling you now of this Excel में data बनता था and RBS tranche we used to give this tranche 139 39 RBS reports tranche 1. So it was an Excel. The lady who used to make, I will give, it was an Excel which has, I think, about 120 columns and about 48 to 50,000 rows. Okay, on that macro used to run. Okay, so you can understand how things are working. Okay, so that was the risk which we are taking. मतलब इसमें तो macro चल के हो नहीं सकता. I need the data from my system. But till I was there, that was the way it used to run. We used to run checks. We used to run time series checks. Previous quarter for this data, what was the thing? What are the accounts that have been closed? What are the new accounts which move the needle? Big ticket accounts which have been disbursed, whether that is showing or not. Various checks we used to run. But I had to submit within a limited time frame. So I used to keep 2 days for running my checks. Okay. But the person used to make it on Excel. That was itself was a huge. See how you can navigate on 48,000 rows and 120 columns, then running macros and formulas on it. So that was there. So that's why you have to understand the problem and immediately look at how to mitigate that. That is important. And so as you can mitigate and manage the stress. And another thing is risk. By the time I moved out, risk was an integrated to the company culture. Previously, it was not. Previously, only business was in the company culture. That's something I will proudly say. That risk was something that people are willing to listen at least. Okay. Previously, it was not there. And
Understood.
your role should be driven by ownership and accountability. That is it. So, diverging a bit from here, so I remember there was an RBI circular in 2019, which needed to be implemented, I think, within a very short time frame, I think 3 to 4 weeks, okay, next quarter. And then the RBI circular came in sometime by end of the previous quarter. So it needed inputs from Treasury and other units also, including credit. Okay, so but there were some fine points which needed discussion. Things were not very clear how to execute it. So then once I sat with my team. Then we sat with the Treasury and to find out what the issues were, how to highlight that. Then I sat with my boss and also the CRO. Then we jotted down these were the issues which needed resolution, where we needed clarity from RBI, because RBI has issued the circular. I need to be clear how we'll put the data. So then after that, my CRO said, "You have found the problem, so you find a solution for me." That was his patent statement. You find me a solution. So then what we did was I networked with my colleagues who were there in risk management across other banks, okay, in Mumbai. So 2 or 3 banks, private banks, and other public sector banks also, 1 or 2 we navigated. Then we had some meetings. And this happened in a very short span of time because the timelines are tight. Then we evaluated their inputs. We put a minutes of meeting, and then we visited this uh, Bankers Institute and all that. And then we went to RBI. Okay. So we took an appointment with the CGM who had issued that circular. We went to them. And then when I think we had 2 or 3 meetings with them, and then after that it was navigated. And then we had the answers and we could present it the way they were looking at. Okay. So these are things that you have to do at that level. That is
Understood.
one thing which I did it. Another thing which I will want to highlight is before we close is that for Reliance Group, there was a loan which was sanctioned. Okay, Reliance, that is Anil Ambani Group. Okay.
Yes.
So there was a security, but there were issues in that security. Okay, as per legal department and this thing, there were issues in that security. So enforcing that may become an issue. So then we had meetings with our internal legal team. We had discussion with business and credit, and then with the external lawyers also. And I remember those were weekends and holidays. But anyway, we navigated that. My team and me, we used to sit and navigate that, how to do that. And then we found a way to get the security created. And there also it was insisted that security will be done upfront. Okay. We created that. And after that, too, I have moved out. But if you see today, Yes Bank's head office, they have moved from Elphinstone to Bandra. You see that. I don't know if you are in Mumbai.
No.
So that is the collateral which I had taken at that point in time. Okay. So that today I can say, okay, okay. So that was a job well done. We couldn't join the dots then, but you can join the dots now. Good. So that is something you can look back.
Right. Hearing how you upheld, your principles in real world situations really enforces why strong leadership matters, and holding your own. I think that's really important. Also, you mentioned the manner in which you do that is very crucial as well. As we near the end of the interview, we realize, Partha, that you've joined Directors Institute, which has been another step in your journey of continuous growth. So, what drew you to the Institute, and how has the experience shaped your perspective on corporate governance boardroom dynamics?
What drew me, I think I was looking at the SEBI exam, okay, initially, because somebody told me of the SEBI exam, which is there for this directors, okay. I was looking at how to train for it. And then I think I was surfing and I think this, I saw this so that's what, it was about a year, I think it was about a year back. Then I went through how you do what you do, your overview and all that, and then I found, okay, I think I should do this. This should be uh, an investment well spent for my post-retirement year. That's the way I looked at it. And I find, let me see what my 1 year with you has been. I found a lot of value in what you do. A structured training for governance, for boardroom governance is not there as of now. A lot of things are unstructured and you have to do a lot of legwork to get those things in place. So you are putting all those things in one place and you follow up also. I'm sorry, like for today's FaceTime also, I gave time only Friday evening because prior to that I was traveling, unfortunately. So I replied to Mr. Ghanshyam, I think on Friday. So that's there. And that follow-up helps because, otherwise you cannot do anything where there is no timeline. You need to have a timeline. Okay, I will close this by this time.
Absolutely.
You need to have what you say, there has to be a deadline. So that's it. I think you are doing pretty good work. And as I progress, as I go through the exam and all that, I'm sure this will add value to me. So
absolutely,
you are doing a lot of good work. And I think if India is to progress and whatever is the idea of Viksit Bharat, so I think people like us need to educate ourselves and evolve and give back whatever we can to the society. Not everyone can give back to the society, right? Not everyone can. If God has given us something that we can give back, it is our duty to give back to the society. I feel it that way.
True.
So that's
important. Yes. And thank you for your response and your kind words. It's great to hear how even seasoned leaders find immense value in structured governance training. And at this level, I think learning at this level isn't just about knowledge, but it's also about refining and revisiting leadership instincts. So, Partha, we've neared the end of the interview, and what an incredible conversation with you. Your insights on risk, governance, leadership truly highlight what it takes to navigate the complexities of today's financial world. And thanks for keeping the conversation so candid, peppered with a lot of personal anecdotes. So we really appreciate that. And if there's one thing to take away, it's that great leadership isn't just about making decisions, it's about making the right ones, even when the stakes are high. So, Partha, thank you so much for being with us on FaceTime with Leaders and answering our questions.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. It has been a pleasure. Looking forward. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And we wish you nothing but continued success. So, let's keep the conversation going. Share your thoughts with us. Connect with Directors Institute and explore how governance excellence shapes industries. And audience, don't forget to tune in for the next episode of FaceTime with Leaders, where we bring you more insights from the world's top executives. Until next time, this is your host for today, Priya George, signing off. Lead with purpose, think with clarity, and make an impact. Take care.